Every acoustic blues player reaches a point where standard turnarounds become a little stale. This common turnaround works just fine, and it's a perfect place to start, but after a while it's predictable and we need something a little fresh. So today I'm going to teach you a contrary motion turnaround in A that's interesting to play and sounds great. If you're a newer blues player, you're going to focus on turnarounds where all the notes generally move in the same direction, like this classic one. Or maybe even ones that pedal a single note while other tones move up or down the neck. But contrary motion happens when one of the lines goes up and the other moves down, and that's often chromatically or a half step at a time in the blues. Let me show you what I mean. In this example, you can clearly see that I'm moving down along one string and up along another, but this presents a problem. It can lead to some difficult or maybe even some impossible stretches, kind of like the one that I just showed you. But there's good news because we can incorporate some open strings to help us avoid many of these tough stretches. We're going to see that in the example turnaround, but that actually leads to a different challenge, some odd fingerings that maybe are new to you. We're going to tackle that as we look into the example turnaround. Real quick, if you find this challenging or if you're new to fingerpicking altogether, I've got something that can help. My free fingerpicking quick start guide builds the fundamentals that you need to tackle moves just like this. You can grab it at the link in the description below. It's a great place to start your fingerpicking journey. Now, back to the turnaround. You see, this one does use contrary motion over 4 beats, and we finish up over the E chord. So this works well in the key of A, where the first measure is the bass line ascending and the treble is descending, both chromatically. Let's take this as separate layers. Starting with the bass, we'll play the open 5th string. Then we want to jump up to the C sharp, which is where we then begin our chromatic climb. So we go C sharp, D, D sharp, E, right? But remember, that can create some really difficult stretches. So let's go ahead and set ourselves up for success by incorporating some open strings. Open 5th, C sharp, same place on the 4th fret of the 5th string, then the open 4th string, right? That's a note we don't have to fret, so we don't have to stretch to play it. Then start climbing chromatically, but here on the 4th string, 1st fret and then 2nd. Hear how that's the same as this, but it's going to eliminate some of those stretches when we bring on the 1st string. Speaking of that, let's do that. We start out with that 1st string on the 5th fret. So that's our A note. Then we drop down to the G, right? So we're dropping down a whole step to the 3rd fret. Then we go chromatically down the 1st string. Right? Now that we can see these two as separate things, maybe they don't look too terrible, but of course the challenge is putting them together. So let's do that. Let's take it note by note. The first is by itself, and then the 1st string is by itself. So the first beat is the bass, just kind of pedaling through these rather than playing them together. Everything else is going to be played together. So if we remember our bass line, the next note that we needed was the 4th fret on the 5th string, the C sharp, and we need that G. So let's play this little shape here. Maybe new to you, right? We don't often play this, but we need to play this. And we're skipping over the middle strings here, 4, 3, and 2, and just pinching strings 5 and 1 there. Take it one step at a time. That's really the key to getting stuff like this down. From here, remember we went to the open 4th string in our bass, and this dropped down. So no real stretch or anything difficult here. Just play the open 4th string and the F sharp on the 1st string. But now we've got to play the 1st fret on our 4th string. Remember that chromatic walk up where we're now fretting? And we also have to play the 1st fret here. So we've got a new fingering here where we're playing both at the 1st fret. This might take a second to get from here into this little shape. Just practice it. And then we've got another easy one to back that up, or coming after that. And that's the 2nd fret on the 4th string and the open 1st. But the turnaround doesn't end here, right? I want to actually play the rest of it out of an E7. So I need to set myself up for that. And to do that, I'm going to fret that final E note on the 4th string with my ring finger, because look what happens. I can now just fall into my E. And in this case, we finish with some cool tones there over E. And even though this finger, my middle finger, isn't fretted right now, I don't need it, but that's why it's kind of hovering here, but I could just fret it, and it's that familiar E to E7 position. Right? And slowly. With a piece like this, where there's a lot going on and you might encounter some new fingerings on the fretboard that perhaps aren't common to chords that you normally play, separate things out, learn it one layer at a time, and then work note by note, beat by beat to bring it together. If you do this slowly and methodically, you can come up with that sophisticated blues sound like we just found with our contrary motion turnaround. But now let's see how this fits into a blues progression. The key is that when we bring the turnaround on, we want to connect it smoothly to the 4 chord, in this case D7, that precedes it. We want to glue it together so that it sounds nice and cohesive. So take some time in your playing, in your practice, to work on these key transition points. And don't forget to work on that transition back from the E7 chord to the A chord, because that really is the whole idea behind a turnaround. It's to get you back from this cool piece that says something new at the end of the progression to your starting point. We're just using the contrary motion idea as a way to do that with some interest and a little bit of style. Now, as you get comfortable with the fingering of this particular contrary motion turnaround, drop it into your favorite 12-bar blues jam at A and see if you can speed things up a little bit. Let's take a look at an example that I came up with. Earlier in the lesson, I called contrary motion a sophisticated sound, and to me it certainly is, but sometimes the most powerful turnarounds come from small and unexpected variations on the basics. So click right here to discover 3 classic Delta blues style turnarounds that change the way I think about ending a blues progression. I'll see you there. Until then, practice smart and play on.